Hey folks, welcome back. So as promised after last episode, I went ahead and did a bunch of the machine frame quests. We can walk through them very briefly here. It's a lot of stuff you've seen over and over and over again in different videos. So I'll just walk you through the different rewards I took where applicable. A lot of it was just building the different machines, and you get a standard set of rewards anyhow. Okay, with the automated mining, I ended up taking the cryotheum dust because that's a little harder to get. And I took us as far as we could until we started needing soul sand to produce stuff in this quest line. And you'll see even under basic survival, I've completed everything there because there was a two quests that both required a glacial precipitator to be made. And I went ahead and just did that and turned all those in. What I wanted to do now is start going after the soul sand, and I'll walk you through the upgrades we did in the base here. So if you remember last time, we put in we built some more autonomous activators to refill our water in that, and I just added more autonomous activators to our account. Number two, what I did with some of the machine frame quests is I made a double MFR planter harvester setup. So one of these setups is just the traditional setup of plant the tree, grow it, and cut it down to get more saplings, wood, and apples. And then the second one is set to shear the leaves. So that way we can build up a backlog of leaves. And if you look, and then the leaves are used for water processing. So if you look down here, we now have the 4 barrels again. If they're a gray colored barrel, they do have the void upgrade in them to enable get us a stockpile, and if there's excess, don't clog the system. Those MFR machines are now automated with Steve's factory manager, and it's just a pretty straightforward setup. It goes over and checks the chest at the back of the harvester and says, is there loot in there? If it is, well, let's process the loot where it needs to go. If there's not, then it checks if the planters are full. So I have the planter set with 1 stack of saplings to never consume the full stack. So if they're empty, it goes ahead and fills the planters, and that's it. Very simple setup. Let the machines keep running. The next thing I did here, which again used planters and harvesters, is I took our little simple farm setup here. Let's walk over there quick and look at it. And just a tad of rearranging, I have a harvester and 3 planters here. Or excuse me, 2 planters. The way the harvester works on some of these Pam's Harvest Craft crops is it just harvests them. So like the grapes, it picks them, but it doesn't destroy the plant. On the soybeans and rice, however, it destroys the plant. So what I needed to do there was I put the stuff it destroyed on one side and the things that it just picked on the other. And there's 2 planters on the side of where things are destroyed. So very simply what I did with it is, if we look at our farms quest line here, is it looks for a condition of, do we have rice and soybeans in the loot chest next to the harvester? And off that true condition, if it was rice, let's go ahead and make sure we have rice available in our planter. If not, throw the inventory over to our gold chest. Or if we don't, we're gonna grab the rice. We're gonna craft it back into rice seed and plant it in our planter. If not, we're gonna move that stuff over to our food chest. Same idea with the soy, and then the rest of the loot goes straight to our food chest. So now what happens is all these farms are automatically picked. They go over to the food chest, and if you remember, a couple episodes ago, we automated cooking all this food. So now this just auto cooks everything for us. We always get our choice of different foods to work with here, as well as water. Okay. And then the next thing we did, you see I made a snowball trigger here. This one we can actually disable. this was just a very simple way for me to move water around the base. And that's kind of the next thing we did, is making sure that these water drums are automatically filled. So I have a fluid transposer in the basement. We'll go there in a minute. And it does a check. First of all, is the fluid transposer filled with water? If not, let's load it up with some leaves from our barrel up here and let it go make some more water. Once it has 10 buckets of water, it checks if our drums are full. Okay? If the drums are full, then it does nothing. So I got one drum here, and we got one from our quest reward, so I have a backup over here. And once both of those are full, it stops the system. Or it stops it right there for now. We'll be putting that to additional use in a minute. Okay. And then the other stuff here I believe you've seen already. So I just wanted to kind of catch you up on that logic. And then number 3 in the list is down below. We've made a set of thermal expansion machines. You guys have seen all these before. There's a pulverizer, an induction smelter, magma crucible, fluid transposers, another pulverizer for automatically making gravel for us so we can feed our system. Which brings us to what I wanted to work on today. In today's episode, a lot of the quests that we are kind of stuck at here in Technological Revolution require various amounts of items from soul sand. And I thought this was worthwhile, just spending a minute automating on camera, just so you guys get a sense of how I was doing this. So what I've pre-set up here is I put down the dirt, and similar to Agrarian Skies or other mod packs that use ex nihilo, you can get ancient spores from sieving sand. One of those on dirt makes mycelium. Now, if we take and put a bucket, a barrel with a bucket of water near mycelium, it'll turn into witch water. So let's just go ahead and demo the manual version of this. If I put that in there, you'll see according to Wayla, it's making or converting this to witch water because that bucket of water is sitting right next to our mycelium. Now what you'll note is that here's the step number 2, is that once this converts to witch water, and let's get a second one so we can kind of have everything aligned here. So that's fully converted. If I put a piece of sand into there, it instantly makes soul sand. So what I want to do in today's episode is go ahead and auto-fill these barrels with water, check for them to convert, and then put sand in, if it's in this chest. So that way we can kind of come deposit some sand and make soul sand as we need it. Okay? And being that the items are already set up, it should just be a straightforward logic system. So we're going to go ahead and call this one soul sand. And let's go into the group and get stuff going. So our first condition we want to check is, do we have sand to be processed? And one thing to be mindful of when you guys start working on this stuff is it's very helpful to actually go and get the coordinates of the chest you're working with to start. So we know that this chest, if we look at our X and Y, is at 315 minus 196, and probably a Y of 55 or 54, according to the cable. So it should be, hold on. And in fact, if you struggle with this like I do, one of the easy things you can do in your single player world is just to type it out. 315 minus 196, and that way we've got it at our kind of a handy dandy notepad, easy to remember. So now when we go up to this thing, this is actually something I've been using quite a bit lately, is we can create a container variable, or a variable, and this variable is going to be a local variable inside of this group, and we're only worried about a chest container here for right now. And we can filter down to chests. And we want to do minus 319 or 315. Wow. I think it's this one, minus 197. And the variable, we're going to make that one white. Why not? Connections, and it's a declaration. Oh, no, we got to use a different variable. So we use orange. And let's change out our water quick. So just to be sure on that, it was 315 minus 196. And the container we picked is 315 minus 197. So that's roughly right. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and call this the soul sand chest. Okay. Now, the first condition we want to check is, do we have sand to process? And we want to look in our variable chest, which we called soul sand chest. We don't care about the side. Requires soul sand. Requires sand. Do we have sand we want to convert? And we want 1. Okay. If that's true, we want to declare that as an input. Hold on. If we got sand to process, the next thing we want to do is declare a liquid conditional check. So now we want to check if. So remember, hold on. Let's label these to make it easier. So, sand to process. And then the liquid thing we want to do is which water available. And which water ready. And we want to look at barrels at 314197. And at all 4 of these, if multi-selection requires all targets, liquid, which water. If it's not which water. Okay, so if we have which water, and 4 buckets, I believe, then we can go ahead and get ready to process to move the sand in. Okay, so if we don't have which water in there, we need to check. We need to check if we have water in there. Okay. Require all targets, and I need to check if we have water in there. If that's false, we need to fill it with water. So this is the first thing we got to do. Okay, is get all these things full, and we want to take our lower level drum. Y of 55 is lower, because the upper level drum, remember, is reserved for filling our camel pack. I don't ever want to tap that. The lower one can be used. So we declared is which water ready, and let's call this one barrels filled with water. If that's false, we're moving the water into them. So we declared a liquid input, and then we're going to create a liquid output. The liquid input, we do want to whitelist water here. We want to take 4 buckets worth, okay? And we want to output that to the barrels, okay? And let's move this up so it's a little easier to see. We want to, for the multi-target interaction, we want to run command once per target. We want to whitelist water, and the reason is we want to put 1 barrel of water per target. So, and we're going to call this one fill barrel with water. Now, If witch water's ready, I don't know if we can actually run shared command once is what we need. If that's true, okay, we need to take the inventory of the variable. So if witch water's ready, we want to take the inventory of the variable. Where is it? Our soul sand chest. We want to target any side. We want to white less sand. And let's see. Oops. Sand. And we want to push that into our chest. So our output, or we want to push that into the barrel. Okay. Into the barrels. Let's do it as oak barrel. And for multi, run command once per target. Items, whitelist, sand. And one per barrel. So remember, on the input side, we want to actually pull out 4 pieces of sand. So that way we kind of do it all at once. Okay. And on sand to process, we need to require 4 to do it. So that way we would do all the barrels at the same time. Now there's one step you might have noticed here that we're kind of missing along the way, is we've checked that there's sand to process. Do we have witch water ready? And if we don't, we fill it with water. If we do, we try and put the soul sand in. What we still need to do is actually remove the sand first, if there's already soul sand in the system, okay? So how we want to accomplish that is we want to put a higher level conditional even. Okay? The higher level conditional, the first thing it's going to check is, do we need to empty the barrels? Okay? So let's do that. And we want to check our oak barrels. Okay? And require 1 target, if any, soul sand. Okay, if there's soul sand in here, we declare an input of those barrels. Okay. And let's see, we blacklist anything that's in there. And we're going to output. So blacklist anything that's in there, that means we're going to take everything. And we're going to output it to our variable chest, our soul sand chest. Okay? So, soul sand ready. I always like to take my conditionals and kind of simply phrase the question of what it's trying to prove or disprove. Okay? And we'll put our variable there. If the soul sand is ready, we're going to remove it. If it's not, we're going to see if we got sand to process. And then the last thing we have to do here is we got to, if you remember when we put that witch water into the barrel, or the water into the barrel and waited for it to convert, it took a little bit of time. So in our interval in this case, we don't need it to go all that fast. We only need to do 4 pieces of sand. If we do it once every 60 seconds, it'll go quick enough for us. Okay? And that should be our system. Okay? And let's go look at what's happening. It should have move stuff into here now. Maybe. It'll within 60 seconds. And let's go ahead and just break out this one barrel so we don't confuse things. Okay. And we'll just time it for a moment here. In fact, for this episode, let's go ahead and make it like 2 seconds. Eventually, off camera, I'll move that trigger to a much longer time. Look at that, it's a gas with a slime on it. So a lot of times when you're first building these systems, it is helpful to make that trigger really short in time so you can kind of watch what's happening. I'm expecting these to be full with water. And we need to probably check that. So right now our water system is not working to fill it. So we did something wrong, and I bet you we need to take a look and say the barrel is not filled, so our input is our tank. What side do we target? I think we want to target the south side to pull stuff out of there. We might actually, let's see. No, we're still not pulling stuff out. So one of our conditional checks is actually not working. So let's review what we did. So do we have soul sand ready? That should be false. Okay. And let's go ahead and line this up a little cleaner so we can follow the arrows more. Okay. Now, do we have sand to process? That should be true. Because in our soul sand chest, we have sand to process. Which water is ready? So let's see, our tanks requires, let's see, which water? Is that? Okay. If that does not have witch water, that's false. Is the barrel filled with water? Requires all barrels. Multi-selection requires all targets. And specify amount 1 bucket of water. If they do not have that, which they shouldn't, that we take from our barrel, we take 4 buckets of water, and we fill each barrel, run command once per target, with 1 bucket of water. Okay, let's go see what's happening. It might actually be going too fast for us to catch. And the other thing, remember guys, is we need to be careful about how we interact with these barrels. Okay? So, fill barrel with water. We want to target the top side. And folks, let me debug this and figure out where I derped, and I'll be right back. Okay folks, I'm back, and I figured out where I derped, and I cleaned up this process a little bit in the same order. So what I did, okay, is I condensed the number of conditionals we're using. So first and foremost, I went and decided I kept a check that says, do we have sand that we want to work with? If so, let's run this process. If not, then don't bother. Just stop the trigger right there. And then the second conditional I kept is, do we have any soul sand ready to be pulled out? If we do, I go ahead and pull that out and then instantly refill those barrels with water. So that way they're back to processing. So now, if soul sand's not ready, we're going to go ahead and try and push the sand into the witch water barrel. Okay? If it doesn't work, then it repeats the loop and goes forward. So right now I'm going to put this on a 1 second interval, and let's go ahead and watch what happens downstairs. And in fact, let's make sure we grab some water and food along the way. Okay. And what you'll see happen is we're converting to witch water right now. We have 20 sand to process. And as soon as this fills up, oh, it converted all of them to soul sand, and we're right back. And it will sit there and loop as much sand as I need it to do. So now, what I want to do with this even more so, okay, if we do not have sand to process, let's go ahead and add some in. Alright. So now, if we don't have sand to process, do we have a count? Okay. Do we have 99 soul sand? Okay. And let's just shorten it and say have 99 soul sand. And we're going to check our soul sand inventory chest. Items, requires all, soul sand, and specify amount. We're going to say, do you have 99? Actually, 999. If you do not, let's go ahead and create an input and an output. So we want to move some sand in there to work with. Okay, if we have it available. And that should be right here at our iron chest. And we'll look at the coordinates 312 minus 185. So we're going to declare an input at our iron chest, 312 minus 186. We're going to whitelist sand. And we're going to try and move as much as we can. Okay. And we're going to call this get sand. And then we're going to go ahead and output that. And we're going to output that to our variable soul sand chest. And we'll output everything there. If we do have 99 soul sand, we're good to go. We don't need any more. So now that'll keep making me soul sand. If we do have 99, what I want to do is move some of that soul sand in a temporary fashion. We'll want to move it up to the top here and process it, potentially automatically, but for now I'll probably do it manual. So I could just reverse that input and output declaration and say take the soul sand from down here and move it up top to the sieves. And we'll handle all the goods from there. But for now, let's let it build up 99 and I can work the processing offline. It's the same thing I've done with the gravel and the dust and all that stuff. So right now we're just going to let this sit here and it'll keep making us soul sand. And consuming, a fair amount of water out of this downstairs drum that we're continuing to refill. So those are kind of the two big things we're working with here. And you can see it's producing it quite nice for us. So that's really, what I wanted to work with in today's episode. And what I'll do off camera is continue to get the different components I need for each of these MFR machines. I think for the breeder we needed... No, we were good on the breeder. I was waiting on carrots from our mob farm. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. remember to hit that like and favorite button, and leave feedback about what you want to see. More of, less of, anything helps. Let me help me to guide it to what you guys want to see. Anyway, see you soon.